time this evening. We will do our best to start on time. If I could ask you at this time to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. At the conclusion of the pledge, I would like to remain standing for a moment of silence to remember those victims of the Parkland shooting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and coming out to discuss what is a very important topic and clearly on the top of our minds within the school district and within the community. For those who have not yet had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Ken Bossert. I'm Superintendent of Schools. I am the robocall you often receive to wake you out of your slumber. I apologize for that, but I'm glad you received the one that invited you here this evening. There are a number of people I would like to introduce and recognize for joining us tonight. Our Board of Education is present this evening, our Board President, Mrs. Freed, our Board Vice President, Mr. Camino, our Board Member, Mrs. Marcus, and Mrs. Mamalito, and I know Mrs. Weiss will be joining us as well. So thank you to the Board of Education for joining us. We have several members of our administrative team that have joined us tonight. Our Assistant Superintendents, Mrs. Laughlin is here, Mrs. Collins. Mr. Coletti from our high school, our assistant principal. Mr. Shanahan, our athletic director / favorite football coach. Ms. Eileen Carey-Borman, our director of math, science, and technology. Our board principal, Dr. Toscano. Our assistant principal here at the middle school, Mrs. Valley. Our middle school principal, Dr. Sapienza. Everyone's favorite assistant principal, sorry, Mr. Coletti. Mr. Cole. Our high school principal, Mrs. Krasinski. Our director of technology and transportation, Mr. Tranquino. Our Director of Facilities, Mr. McDonald. Not with the group, our Executive Director of Special Education, Mrs. Wilkinson. Thank you for joining us. And Mrs. Weiss, welcome. We also have several members who have helped us put together our security planning and some of the things that we'll be presenting this evening. One of the vendors that we've worked with that has helped us to enhance our technology for security around the district, and we'll be showing you some of the work they have done with us, is a wonderful group called Intralogic Solution. And as you can imagine, their time is in very hot demand tonight, so we're pleased that 3 representatives from Intralogic were able to join us tonight. Mr. Rich Berman, who's the CEO and founder. Rich, thank you for joining us. Bob Doyle, who is a retired Suffolk County police officer and is currently an advisor for Intralogic. Thank you, Bob. And Dennis Amadio, FBNY Rescue One retiree. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. We also have a member of the Suffolk County Police Department, Officer McVeigh, is with us this evening on very short notice. Officer McVeigh, thank you very much for joining us. Kay Simran is here. He is part of the Executive Director of Wisdom Security, who is the security guards we work with each day. We also have Steve Myers, who is a resident and one of our security guards, who has a leadership role within Wisdom. Steve, thank you very much for staying on a very long day today. We also have retired and current superintendent who happens to be a resident and somewhat of an expert in the area of security, Dr. Alan Grogan, who joined us tonight. So Alan, thank you very much for your time. And please give a round of applause to Alan. And as I look out into the audience to see who assembled tonight, I see so many of our PTA and community group leaders. I see so many of our staff members and our faculty. And I see parents. I see parents who are concerned about the safety of their children and the status of the Elwood School District. So I thank you so much for giving up your time on short notice on a Monday following the break. I know many of you had a very long day today, and to continue it with us and to share your thoughts and opinions is very important. We do appreciate you coming down. Just for the format of it, I prepared, along with the leadership team, a short presentation, just a few slides, give you an overview of some of the areas of security and safety that we've been focused on here in Elwood. And I think, based upon some of the phone calls and emails I have received in the last week or so, I think many of the slides will answer some of the questions that residents have had for me. But then following this short presentation, I absolutely want to allow as much time as you need for questions, comments, suggestions, Tonight is about giving you the platform to ask those questions and make those comments about the status of security here in our school. Long way, Gene? We took care of that. So the purpose of the meeting is to give an update regarding security enhancements, briefly review the elements of our school safety plan, and an overview of the essential safety items, discuss upcoming demonstrations that are being planned and involve some of our students, a plan for next step, and then time for your comments and questions. So over the last 5 years, a lot has happened in Elwood and many, many school districts across Long Island, across the state and nation. These are some of the things that are specific to the enhancements that have taken place here. We now have full-time security guards in place in all of our school buildings. That is a recent enhancement. That has happened after my arrival here. When we did a full security assessment, it was decided that this was really a necessary action that we needed to take to maximize the safety of our students and staff. We have also added weekend and night patrols of our security guards. And I think it's important to note that all of our full-time guards are former law enforcement officers. We have retired NYPD officers, we have retired corrections officers, we have retired court officers. They all have a law enforcement background to be employed through Wisdom on a full-time basis in Elwood. We have increased and consistent collaboration with sub-county police department. Your students will tell you that the police have a presence in Elwood. When we conduct our drills, when we plan our strategies for responding to emergencies, we work very closely with law enforcement officers. We recognize the fact that we are educators, that our expertise is in the area of instruction. So when we need to plan items of safety and response, we call upon those who are experts in the field to assist us in doing that. The sub-county police department has been spectacular in their collaboration. And through the school resources officers programs and through the community relations programs, we've been able to do some wonderful things here. Many of you were in attendance last year for the forum that was held on the ugly truth about substance abuse. And that was just one of the nights that we collaborated with subjects. They are here quite a bit. We have made them welcome on campus. I've had conversations with officers directly to say, you know what, if you have paperwork that needs to be done, you're writing up a ticket, you're filing a report, instead of parking on the side of Elwood Road, why don't you pull into one of our parking lots? Just be a visible presence, and they have responded. Fortunately, they let us know we're doing that, so we know why they're here. But we do have a more visible presence of officers on the campus. We have attended trainings, members of the leadership team and staff, given by the sub-county police department, given by the Department of Homeland Security and other agencies. We need to do more of that. Whenever intelligence grows amongst the law enforcement community, there are additional trainings that are held. We attend them. The job is then to turnkey that information to the faculty and staff who need to know that information. We have regularly scheduled minimum 4 lockdown drills, which is referred to as shelter in place, and the sub-county police department is present for each of them. They evaluate the effectiveness of our drills and our plans and help us to make modifications when they feel it's necessary. We have strategically placed panic buttons throughout the building. I'm not going to tell you where they are. But in the event of emergency, we do have panic buttons, and we'll talk about our enhancement in technology, how that capacity has grown. We have additional video surveillance. The largest percentage of our district is now being recorded and filmed. There is a lot of areas where we can see exactly what's going on from master control centers. And with that, capability is also becoming mobile, where we can surveil what's happening in buildings and hallways and exteriors from devices. The ID scanners and visitor process in the single point of entry is something you're familiar with. If you visit our schools anytime during the instruction day, you know you have to surrender your license, you know you're given an ID, and you can't be in the buildings without that. Additional methodologies for immediate contact with parents have been added. You know I'm a big fan of Twitter. While it is fun to share the wonderful things happening in our school, it is also great to have an emergency situation. Our school messenger system is able to send out automated calls to all parents and emails to all parents in a matter of minutes. If there were an emergency that took place and you needed immediate notification, that is the system we would use. We have made corrections to gaps noted in our drills by security. We are blessed to have law enforcement officers, retirees working as our security guards, so very often they will make suggestions about enhanced security procedures on a day-to-day basis or during our drills. We use that knowledge that they have to our advantage. And of course, the other half of that is preventative in nature. We've had additional focus on mental health of our students. Our faculty and staff, through the curriculum and their daily practice, are focusing on our our students, to make sure they are coming to school with the mental capacity to function appropriately in the classroom. We know our focus on mindfulness. There's a reason for that. We know that mental health for our students is a top priority in a very anxious time. And we are also stressing for both students and parents, see something, say something, or do something. It's the second part of that expression now. And that includes what's viewed on social media. Many of you are aware, and it was included in the communicated message, that we had a social media concern that was brought to the attention of school officials last week during the break. It was great that parents had the insight to make sure we were aware of that, because if that social media concern had continued to spread without being addressed, it would have become a frightening time. Because we were able to investigate it and address it, we knew that there was no concern present for our students, our faculty, our staff, for our buildings. But it was only because we were made aware of it. If that post had continued to circulate throughout the students without parents becoming involved and involving school officials, it might likely have snowballed to something more concerning. We also have imminent enhancements. And by imminent, I mean these are projects we've been working on for the last 2 years. State of New York gave us the benefit of having funds available in all districts, available to all districts, called smart bond monies. And these are monies that were given to us in the form of state aid, where we were able to be reimbursed for certain expenses to enhance many aspects of our program, inclusive of security. When we had to discuss with the Board of Education appropriate ways to spend our smart bond money, one of the things that the board asked us to focus on was enhancements for security. And this conversation began 2 full years ago. And we were lucky to engage Dialog and other vendors in getting these projects complete, and we're nearing completion before many others lined up behind us. We will be finishing our project while other districts begin to start their own. So these are some of the things that you'll be seeing enhanced. Our phone systems have been updated tremendously, and you know that from the change in our numbers. But the capability gives us an opportunity for lockdown notification. We can initiate lockdowns from many different access points within the building. A 911 alert, if a teacher or staff member dials 911, not only does it send an alert to several offices, including my own, that 911 has been dialed, it lets the police department know where that call was made from, specific to the classroom. So we think that's an important enhancement as well. We have door scanners. All of our faculty and staff wear these ID badges. It helps them know who belongs in the building. These will also be used as swipe key cards. This is how faculty and staff will gain access to the building. And the way that the scanners work is that only specific people will have access to buildings at specific times and specific locations. So it helps, it enhances our security by not having lots of keys floating around and wondering where they may go. We also limit the points of entries to the building to only places where people should be exiting and entering. For example, when students go out to the playground, we can't be chalking doors to allow them to come back in. We can't be leaving doors propped open. It's a security breach. What we can do is put a scanner on that door, so when the staff member comes back in with the students, they just swipe their way back into the building. Additional video camera coverage. We had some areas identified by our principals and our staff members that they felt were underserved by our existing cameras. We've added additional cameras to cover those areas. The one-button lockdown capability, I actually have a video that will help describe how that works that Dialog put together for us, so I won't go into detail about the pull stations, the desktop, the mobile, and the notification system. Mr. Chenkina, do you want to help me show that video? About 4 minutes long.
Hi, my name is Lee Mandel. I'm the CEO of Dialog Solutions, and today I'm about to introduce our new one-button lockdown technology. Our one-button lockdown basically ties in all of our technology into one common operating picture. What you're looking here is our interactive kiosk to display how a lockdown works. A lockdown is made up of what's called initiating devices and enunciating devices. You need to have multiple ways of initiating a lockdown. Our initiation devices include an iPad, any mobile cell phone, our video management software that you can see over here. We have hardwired panic buttons. We have under-the-desk style panic buttons over here. Additionally, aside from all that, we can even initiate a lockdown from an IP telephone by pressing a button on the phone. Or our keyboard, our standard mouse and keyboard in a classroom or in a room can initiate a lockdown. Now, when we initiate a lockdown, multiple things happen. We first contact the police to let them know the geographic location where the lockdown came in from. we flash a strobe light on the exterior of the building to let people know that the police are on their way and we have locked down the campus. The strobe lights are supposed to make it where people don't re-enter the building. So if they're off campus returning back, they know we're in lockdown to stay off campus. We also enunciate over the PA system, as you can see over here, making an announcement pre-recorded in the principal or management's voice. We'll also send a text message out to parents or students. Parents who may be picking up students or kids who are off campus will get a text message letting them know not to return to campus. As well, we'll take over the PC screens everywhere in the building and put a lockdown message on so people don't have access to hear the lockdown message. They'll go through that as well. And we'll also talk over the phone system. So using an IP phone system, we'll actually make a digital announcement showing the text. We'll hear the announcement over the IP phone system, and then we'll also be able to see where the lockdown's coming in from the system as well. Additionally, when the lockdown happens, we'll disable our card access. So when we're not in lockdown, as you can see here, I can enter the building. But when we go into lockdown, we want to disable those doors. So now we're going to trigger a lockdown. For demonstration purposes, I'll use our emergency button here, and we're going to watch everything happen quickly.
This is Mr. Amster. Please excuse the interruption. We are now moving into lockdown. Everyone please lock down and await further instructions.
So as you can see from the lockdown system, we first contacted the police, as you can visually see demonstrated here. We also flashed a strobe light. You heard the audible announcement, and you're seeing right on the screen here a takeover of both PC screens. Additionally, we sent out text messages out to the parents and the students that may be off campus. We also heard and saw the message over the phone system, as you can tell here. So everything happened simultaneously. Additionally, when I now go to swipe my card, I can't get access to the building anymore. So that simulates the basics of a one-button lockdown. Additionally, the way the system is set up, we have multiple ways of initiating this lockdown. All our cameras and modules are tied into the electronic floor plan, so we can see where our lockdowns were triggered from as well, right on the system. We have the ability to tie into an IP intercom system to have people buzz in and show on the computer screens throughout the building. And we even have the ability to tie in sensors such as water detection, carbon monoxide, as well as temperature sensors. So it's a fully inclusive system tied into the one-button lockdown. Even our mobile version has full capabilities, as you can see here, from the panoramic views down to the static, as well as even a live view on the system of the actual one-button lockdown system in action. So all of this is built directly in together, tied into the Intralogic one-button lockdown system. If you have any further questions or want assistance on how you can integrate this into your current platform, feel free to visit our website at www.ilsny.com or feel free to call us at 516-799-7061. Thank you very much and have a great day.
So this technology will be in place in the Elwood School District probably as soon as post-spring break of this year. This is something that has been worked on and planned, as I said, for a period of about 2 years. When you exit the auditorium at the end of our assembly, you will notice the blue pull stations that resemble fire alarms but are there to initiate a lockdown procedure. You probably never noticed them before, but now seeing this video, you surely will. So I thank Mr. Tranquino, Mrs. Laughlin, and the team from Dialog for all the work that has been done in the district. It was extensive. There's a lot of wiring involved in making all of these things work, and the training that will go in for the faculty and staff is forthcoming. And this will be something that will become part of our daily practice here in Elwood. So thank you to the team from Dialog. The school safety plan is a public document. It is on our district website for review. However, it is a very much truncated version of our safety plan because there are elements of the plan that we are restricted from publicizing. While the plan that is available to school administrators, faculty, and staff is inclusive of lots of information, including maps of the school and things of that nature, this is not something we would want to put in our website or publicize. If someone means to do us harm, we do not want to give them information that would help them do that. So there is the safety plan in its short form as required by SED regulation and New York State law on the district website if you care to view it in its entirety. But I will tell you, it's missing significant material that is known to our faculty and staff members. as well as most of your students. We have a district-wide safety committee that's established and maintained each year. It is a function of the Board of Education to approve and appoint that safety committee. We have a plan that was written by the committee that is revised, reviewed, and adopted each year. The latest plan was adopted by the board at the reorganizational meeting in July of 17. Safety committee liaisons exist in each of our school buildings because there are individual plans that have specific plans drawn up for each of our school buildings. It is submitted to the State Education Department as well as local and state police. It is important that both Suffolk County Police Department and the New York State Department of Police have our plans on file for review should there be an emergency to respond to. Again, the public portion is posted to the website. It includes drill requirements. We have 12 evacuation drills per year, at least 4 of which must be locked down. Fire drills are not already used anymore. They're evacuation drills, and they are school evacuations for many different emergencies. One of them would be fire. Maps of the buildings, labeling of doors happen to expedite response from law enforcement. We want our law enforcement officers to have as much information as possible in advance of an emergency. It's another reason why we're happy that the Suffolk County Police Department has been so collaborative. If officers need to respond to an emergency in our building, we want to feel comfortable that it's not their first visit. They know the lay of the land and they know their way around. And a constant revision to the plan happens as intelligence involved. Whenever there are emergency events that take place locally or throughout the country, we use what is learned from those experiences in our conversations with law enforcement to revise and modify our plan. I can tell you that the events that took place in Florida did shed some light on some things we need to discuss and plan for here. There are some very frightening things that took place in Florida that we need to make sure we have plans in place should horrific things like that occur locally. We also must just focus on common sense decision making, and training that comes from law enforcement now is referred to run, hide, fight, or flight. So run and hide is first step. If there is safe egress noted by a teacher and the teacher directs time to flee campus, sometimes that's the right move to make. When I was watching newscasts following Florida, it struck me that one of the students who was present for the shootings was interviewed and indicated she had been outside when she heard the lockdown initiated, so she returned to the building to be sheltered in place. Now that's a student following the training she had received from the faculty. Common sense might have dictated running the other direction. It's a hard conversation. It's easier to have with our faculty and staff who use their best common sense and judgment. Difficult with students because we absolutely want them to follow the directions of the adults that are responsible to them at the time of the emergency. But we also want them to be thinking to their own maturity levels to know if there's a safe way to exit the situation, that they take that action. One concrete example, if we have a phys ed class practicing on the track when they see the blue lights beginning to strobe, noting that we're in lockdown, moving further away from the building rather than returning to the building to be sheltered would likely be the logical thing to do. Those types of decision making that we have to continue to discuss with our faculty and staff to assist our students if there ever is an emergency. You may have heard about some of these organizations who are promoting different demonstrations over the next few months. If you haven't checked with your children, they probably have. Of all the questions that I've received since the events in Florida, this is what I've been most frequently asked about via email and phone calls from parents in the community. They are curious about how the school plans to address some of these demonstrations that are being planned on a nationwide basis. If you haven't heard about them, these are the organizers, these are the dates, these are the times. So I can tell you this. This is mostly a high school and perhaps a middle school situation. And along with the building teams, we'll be meeting with students and faculty, talking about safe ways to express opinions without walking out of our school campus. Obviously, we can't allow students to leave school campus in an unsupervised manner at any point for any reason. So we will talk to students who are passionate about wanting to show support for some of these movements, gun control, etc., in a way that is conducive to an instructional setting. We will talk to students about perhaps assembling in the auditorium to discuss the issue, for that particular time on that particular day, rather than inviting anyone to leave campus. I'm sure as parents you take comfort in that, that we will not allow your students to have unauthorized exit from our buildings. And the truth of the matter is, even if we strongly support their mission, strongly support their vision, we don't have the right to make those decisions. We may all adamantly support gun control and may want to walk out with the students to demonstrate. But if the next group of students wants to march to legalize heroin, can we allow it? Absolutely not. We need to abide by the district code of conduct and enforce the rules that exist on any day. So while we want to absolutely give students the freedom of expression to talk about what they passionately believe in, we want them to do that in a structurally appropriate way. So those are the conversations we'll be having with your children over the coming weeks as these dates approach. One, however, that I do want you to be aware of is I've been asked to share the March 24th, 11 a.m. gathering at SUNY Farmingdale. Representatives King and Representative Swaze want local students and parents who do feel strongly in favor of stricter gun control and focus on this issue to come to SUNY Farmingdale. That is the date and time of the march that's scheduled to take place in Washington. That was organized shortly after the events in Parkland, Florida. Our local representatives would love there to be local support for the issue. So parents who feel passionately about it and students who feel passionately about it, you're encouraged to attend this gathering at SUNY Farmingdale on Saturday at 11 a.m., which I think is an appropriate venue to express these beliefs. And the other one is not until Friday the 20th. For those of you that is a familiar day, that is the anniversary of the Columbine shootings, which I think was the first event in 1999 that really started to change the way schools operated on a daily basis as far as school safety. Next steps. What are we planning to do from here? Well, one of the things we're going to do is follow up on questions, concerns, and comments that you bring forward tonight. I think it's important that you know that Mrs. Offman and Mrs. Hall have agreed to take notes for me so I can listen intently and they will be recording what you are saying. But we also will continue to assess and modify our emergency response plans in conjunction with local, state, and federal agencies. And when I say that, I mean that. We work with the State Police Department in addition to Suffolk County. We work with the Department of Homeland Security when they offer trainings in our region. Additional training for faculty and staff. There are some that unfortunately are becoming more and more relevant. And I think it's important that more members of our faculty and staff, not just the administrative team, are familiar with. So we will likely be sending teachers out to trainings that unfortunately becoming part of our reality. Stop the Bleed is something that I attended, and it's basically if there is an active shooter event, it's a way to create tourniquets and ways to stop bleeding to save lives until emergency response to get there. It's horrible to think as an educator this is training that may be useful someday, but I can tell you that those who were present in the department training who had this training did save lives. So these are the types of things we do need to look into moving forward. Fight or flight, again, is training where the police department talks about ways to respond in an emergency situation. I learned that day what a weapon a appropriately used fire extinguisher can be. I became very aware of where the fire extinguishers were after that training. First, you use it to block the vision and disable the assailant, and you hit him over the head with the large metal device in your hands. Again, not training I ever anticipated when I entered the field of education, but something that, believe me, is in the back of my mind should an emergency arise. We will research practices that are employed in other school districts and municipalities that could be successfully implemented in Elwood. We are not arrogant enough to believe we're the smartest kids on the block in all areas. We will learn from others around us and take ideas that we think are usefully implemented elsewhere. We learned of a situation today in a neighboring school district, happens to be the William Floyd School District, where students use their identification cards to sign into the building each morning. That's a capability as far as the technology standpoint we already have in place. So it's just a matter of changing the behavior of our students to have them swipe into the high school in the morning. That would help to ensure that everyone entering the high school does go home. We would investigate additional ways to secure traffic through campus. Something that has troubled me ever since I arrived as your superintendent is the open nature of our campus passing between the middle school and the high school. You may have noticed that there were large metal posts placed there recently. There's a reason why they're there. We do intend to block traffic through our campus at specific points. during when school is closed and not in sessions, when cars do not belong here. That's the initial viewpoint of it. But I think it's time to have a conversation for other dates and things to mimic cars coming on and off school campus. We will review the role of building greeters in the process for entry. You've all visited our campuses. You know that you show your face at the door, and the greeter has to assess whether you are friendly or not friendly. That's a lot of responsibility for that individual. So we are going to be reviewing that procedure, and you may see some strategic changes made to how you enter the buildings moving forward. We will advocate locally and at the state level for increased school resource officers. If you caught my 10 seconds on News 12 earlier this evening, that was one of the things that I mentioned to the reporters who are actually joining us here tonight. When asked what I thought would be beneficial should the resources permit, is having additional school resource officers. School resource officers are specially trained, active current officers of the Suffolk County Police Department who have specialized training on how to work in school campuses with student populations. They are specially trained officers who have a law enforcement background and are given them additional training in working in schools to help protect our students. It's not just in the event of an emergency. The program was created to help curtail participation in gangs, participation in substance abuse, and also be a visible, friendly connection with law enforcement on campus. We have 2 wonderful school resource officers who work with our district. However, we share them with Huntington, Southampton, Harborfield. So you can guess what percentage of their time they spend in our school facilities. It's very small. I had the opportunity to meet with County Executive Balone and Suffolk County Police Chief Cameron, and they want to talk about ways to enhance school safety. One of the things I will be advocating for, not just as the superintendent, but as president-elect of the Suffolk County Council of School Superintendents, former President Dr. Grogan is with us as well, is increased school resource officers. We need to dedicate more funding to allow the police department to grow this initiative to have a greater presence on our campuses. Apparently, while we were busy at instructing today, the governor also came out in support of having police officers in greater volume on school campuses. We will continue to focus on mental health services. We've talked a lot about response. We also want to be very proactive in making sure that we're being very attentive to our student population so that we don't have students resorting to violence to express their difficulties. So we will talk about anti-bullying initiatives, substance abuse prevention, safe and appropriate use of school media, and we also have screening tools in place that our mental health staff uses to screen students who are at risk. We are in a climate now where teachers do not hesitate to bring forward a concern if they have one about a student's mental well-being. And we have mental health staff members in each of our buildings, and we will be advocating for additional resources for our mental health staff so that when there are students who are having difficulty, they can be screened by a mental health professional who can assess their risk. Unfortunately, it is a reality that sometimes when students are referred to a mental health professional in one of our schools, they are deemed to be at risk, and we have to notify the parent that we feel it's necessary they seek mental health emergency response outside of the school. We have had students leave our school campuses and go directly to mental health facilities to be screened. Often we require clearance from a doctor before they return to school if we have grand concerns about their mental status. It is a grim reality of part of public school that we need to be very careful about the mental status of the students here, that if we feel they are a risk to themselves or others, that we address it and we work carefully with parents to address it. Part of our role. I don't remember if I told you it would be 40 minutes of presentation, but I apologize that it was 40 minutes of presentation. But what I was attempting to do was try to proactively answer many of the questions that I had received and some that I may anticipate you asking. But now is the time to answer other questions or to respond to comments or concerns that you have. So this microphone is live. If you'd like to come up to the microphone, we are live streaming our meeting and we are video recording our meeting. So you are all friends and neighbors. If you just want to line up 1 or 2 at a time, not more than that, at the microphone, we will make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. And as I said, we'll be taking careful notes. And just so we can follow up if necessary, if you just state your name prior to speaking about legal.
Hi, Kimberly Cameron. Both my husband and I are in the field of education, and both of our school districts have man traps. Do we have any current plans to construct man traps in the school district?
You're going to have to describe what you're defining as a man trap.
It's like a vestibule where you may buzz in, but then there's like a bulletproof glass, and there's an ID. They have to kind of slip it under, and then there's a security guard there, and then they have to identify. They have to sign in, and they cannot get past the entrance into the school building. Because, like you said, in your presentation, you press the button, and are they friendly or not friendly, and then they're allowed to enter into the school building, which is a great concern, because now you're talking, this is like several feet into where the security guard desk is, just at the middle school alone. And in Harley, I'm not sure if they have, I guess, the video camera or whatever, but when you buzz in, who's to say who's a friendly face or not a friendly face? Or a former student or a former ex-employee. So do we have plans, is that part of the discussion and conversation?
So security vestibules in each of our buildings were discussed at length and proposed as part of the discussion surrounding our energy performance contract. Due to the feedback from the community, those items were removed from the proposal.
Do you think if you present it again, there might be a different outcome?
I think we will have to revisit the conversation.
Okay, thank you for addressing my concern.
Good evening. My name is Charles Kang, and first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who's here tonight. And I've been an active law enforcement officer for most of my adult life, and most importantly, I am also father to two wonderful kids attending the school. So I have a lot of stake in this event. And I'd also like to thank Suffolk County police officers. I know I have a lot of interaction with you guys in the past. I have faith in those officers because they're trained day in and day out. They will not react the way that Parkland, the Aurora County sheriffs have done. So I have absolute faith in you guys. So one of the questions that I have is, number one, school districts have done a wonderful job of hiring great security officers who have law enforcement background. Do you have any plans to have them going armed, or at least give them some opportunity to have some sort of defensive tool to save our kids, if should we have an event happen?
I will give you the most candid response to the question that I most absolutely anticipated being asked. I have not had the opportunity to discuss that with the Board of Education. What I have had the opportunity to do was the research that I need to bring to the Board of Education. First, we needed advice from counsel of whether or not that is a legal action that a public school can take in New York State. And it is. You are legally permitted to contract with an agency to provide armed security personnel to the school. And that came as a surprise to many when that opinion was rendered by counsel throughout Long Island. The second phase of that is we need to have conversation with those who insure our school district of whether or not that is a permissible act to not negate our current insurance policy. The liability that would be assumed, obviously, would be extensive. So we are waiting for an opinion from NYSER, who is the New York State Insurance Reciprocal, one of the largest providers of insurance to public schools on Long Island, on their opinion of armed personnel on school grounds. So I can't answer your question, but I can tell you it will certainly be a conversation that is had with the Board of Education, and I am providing them with all the information necessary to make that an informed dialogue.
All right, and the second question that I have is, during the lockdown sequence, I understand that one of those ID cards will not work, so people cannot get inside of the building. Do our officers from Suffolk County or Fire Department or EMS, the first responders, would have access to the building in case of lockdown?
They have their master keys, yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is John Wilson, and I had one question, and now I have two. Based on something you just said about armed or not armed, and the thing about that is I wonder if we should even be talking to tell people that they're not armed correctly.
Well, you have to remember...
I think it's better that somebody gets surprised.
Well, I will tell you this, I think it's pretty well understood that there are no school districts currently on Long Island that employ an armed security personnel. When there's a uniformed active police officer on campus, that is the only time there's a firearm permissible.
Resource officer is...
School resource officer is an on-duty uniformed police officer and does carry a weapon. Officer Ms. Bay is legally permitted to carry her weapon this evening as she is an on-duty officer who is kind enough to attend our event. That's it. That is the only legally permissible agent right now. I will tell you, however, and I'll reiterate, that all of our full-time security guards that we employ through Wisdom are retired law enforcement officers.
Okay, but my second question was, I guess, in reading the news about what happened in Florida, we discovered, I guess, that some of the school districts had what they call a collaborative agreement on discipline between the school and the judicial system and the police department, where students are allowed some leeway on certain felonies where they don't get reported. And I wonder if that's not in the best interest of the other students, or even the population later on, where if somebody had a felony charge or conviction, they'd be prevented from buying a weapon. And in this case, I don't know if this person had a felony that he committed, but it would have stopped on shown on the background check.
I can only tell you that I'm not aware of any such agreement, and certainly not know it, and I'm not aware of any local school districts that employ such a practice.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good evening. My name is Wilson Charles, and I have 2 boys in the Elwood School District. I know there's, with the situation in Florida, there are discussions in terms of how to ensure that the schools are safe. So, as it relates to having armed security officers or what have you, how do we ensure that as we have that it doesn't appear or doesn't look like we are creating an environment that is, yes, we want the safety, but at the same time, that's not heavily, feel like you're in a prison system environment, if I'm making any sense. That's a really a concern. And to ensure that students don't feel like they're entering that type of environment, if you will.
When we have difficulty differentiating our schools from our correctional facilities, we have failed as a society.
Okay.
So there are lots of suggestions that have come forward that cause me great pause. But I will state for the record, I had no opportunity to discuss arming our personnel with the Board of Education. They are a group of 5 very concerned members of this community who have been elected to represent all their constituents. I have a sense that when they have this conversation, they will make sure that their decision is reflective of the desire of the community.
Thank you. Secondly, question relating to, I guess it's similar, that as there have been instances in the past, not within the Elwood School District, but perhaps others, where a security officer interacting with someone, could be someone of another race or something to the effect, and it goes wrong, where there may be an overreaction or the interaction doesn't go well, to ensure that the training is in place, that type of situation, because, you know, I'm just thinking that worst case scenario that someone, that depending on who the security officer may or may not be, that it can pose a situation where an unforeseen occurrence happens between that security officer who's able to use that weapon and at the same time someone else. I'm just...
Well, to further your point,
yes.
You have articulated expressly why we insist that our security guards are retired law enforcement officers who are specifically trained on how to de-escalate a situation, on how to appropriately interact with members of the public. One of the reasons why I'm such an advocate for the school resource officer program is not only are these highly trained law enforcement officers, there are also officers who have received specialized training on how to work in a school environment and how to work with an adolescent student population. And I will continue to advocate to say those are the best trained and most informed individuals to assist us with securing our facilities.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Maria Sharp. I have 2 small children in the district, so
Welcome.
thank you. And thank you for all of your participation and for keeping us safe and secure. You know, you guys have added a level of security just within our own minds, just to let us know, you know, that there's a system in place. We don't see it all on a day-to-day basis. We see and we know the security guards, but we imagine the worst-case scenarios, and it's really hard for parents with children, small children especially.
So I will share with you. I have 2 girls of my own. And after the tragic events in Florida, I struggled just as every other parent in this room and in this country did sending them to school the next day. And I know their school district fairly well. And I know the security protocols that they have in place. But just that little bit of hesitation, thinking, my goodness, no one's immune, is frightening. And it's certainly anxiety causing. It's certainly a reasonable fear. And I'm working with all of you to search for a way to return to normal. These continued acts of school violence cannot be the new normal. Our children cannot grow up in a society where this becomes an acceptable, byproduct of the educational process.
I agree. And it's not only the schools, it's, it's going to a movie theater, it's going to a concert, it's a form of homegrown terror, basically. We are terrorized by it. But we're doing the right things, we're taking precautions, and one of the things I want to mention, which is outside of protection and being armed and all that stuff, is being proactive in terms of the young boys and young men in our school system. Because I feel like, it's obvious to most of us that these acts are not being performed by young women. It's 99% of the time by young men. And I think that we need to take special care with our boys and with our young men who feel alienated, who feel like they're not part of the in crowd. They might not be on a sports team, and where do you start, where do you begin? It's a concern.
And you talk about the proactive approach that I referenced and making sure we identify who those students are. One of the things that I think you'll find consistent is when school officials are interviewed after events like the one that took place in Florida, no one seems to be surprised at who the perpetrator was. When we talk about students, getting themselves on the radar screen as far as being concerned regarding their mental health, teachers, staff members, administrators tend to know who the students are that bear close supervision. I will tell you that is certainly the case in Elwood. There are some students that we know require a bit more tender loving care and attention to make sure that they stay focused and on the right track. Teachers know who the kids are. And when they have concerns, they are really proactive about bringing them forward to the right resources within the district, and sometimes out of the district, to get that help. And it's unfortunate that some of our students do have some real difficulties that they go home to, and they have some real trying times. But I feel comfortable telling you, we tend to know who they are.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say also is, not just weeding them out, but also as a community, being supportive of those young boys and young men.
Sure. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Fox. I have 2 children that are in the school system that are actually here tonight. My question is kind of based on something you sort of answered, but it's sort of an addendum to it. You have a lot of technology that you're bringing online. I'm just wondering if there's been some sort of a study done to how many resource agents are needed per square foot or per population of students. I know at Parkland, and I might have heard this wrong, there was 1 or 2 resource officers on a campus for supposed 1 million square feet.
3,000.
So I'm just wondering if there's some sort of hard number that says what you need, so we know whether we're underperforming or we're performing where we need. Because I know as a parent, and I also know from going into other public buildings, I don't want the school to look like a prison, but there is a comfort when you do see a police officer, when you see somebody of authority, who's not threatening, but certainly is somebody who is showing that they're here to protect you. So I'm wondering if there's been any study that's been done to indicate how you go about putting those resources in place with the technology.
The answer is I don't know.
Okay.
But I can assure you that these are conversations that are taking place widespread in our state and across the nation. And if we have the governor of the state of New York calling for additional police officers in every school, I have a sense that the highest forms of government will be discussing exactly what that ratio should be if they plan to dedicate that large amount of financial resources to the program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And you are?
Joe Bushy. I'm a teacher at Elwood and the president of the Elwood Teachers Alliance. And I want to thank you guys for showing the proactiveness of setting up a safe plan and suggestions and even opening it up to community members to have ideas. One thing you didn't mention, which I heard through Facebook and certain government officials, was the idea of arming teachers. And I want to say from our unit, and I spoke to every level of representation from all buildings, and we are against it as teachers.
We're very relieved to hear that, Mr. After that moment of levity, I will have to say, I applaud the Elwood community for not raising that question. I received many inquiries about lots of different things, and not a single resident called and asked me when we'll be distributing firearms to our instructional staff. You know, as a former classroom teacher, I can tell you, teachers work very hard to establish a rapport, a safe, nurturing environment for students. I cannot imagine how grossly that would be disrupted by arming our instructional staff. So the fact that the Elwood Teachers Association is adamantly opposed, the New York State United Teachers are adamantly opposed, and the governor of the state of New York is adamantly opposed to that idea, takes a little weight off my shoulders. Sorry.
My name is Peter Kenny, and maybe what I'm going to say is not very popular, but schools are going to be targets as long as they're soft targets. We're going to have to harden schools. It's just it just seems to be a reality. And it seems maybe it's going to have to be security. Our sources, our resources are very limited. I think that would be the answer. I really do, because these people they're cowards, savages, and if they know that the school is a hard target, they think they're going to think twice. That kid tried to get away.
Mr. Kenny, I don't think you should worry about your opinion being popular or not popular. I think the question that you raise is being discussed in every public school in the state of New York. And I think it's something that has to be very carefully evaluated, something that has to really be processed before any decision is made. But I can tell you that we're discussing it here tonight, and that same conversation will take place in just about every school district.
Thank you very much for having this discussion.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Dr. Silviani. I have 2 children in the school, so in the district, and young, and I'm just...
me too.
There you go. I have the gray hair and the loss of hair. Anyway, being that is the case, it's a concern to me that the school is locked down. I understand that. Things happen, though, sometimes, or it could happen when someone gets into the school itself. Is there any way or any thought to locking down individual classrooms? There are cheap, inexpensive devices that seem to work in other school districts. And UCLA had an event, and it was helpful there to lock down the individual classroom itself.
So every classroom has the ability to be locked. all of our teachers have the capability of locking their own classroom door and sheltering the students in place. That already exists. We also learn things through our processes. I can give you a concrete example. Excuse me. When we were doing our lockdown procedures in coordination with the Suffolk County Police Department in this building, one of the things that we try to do is get all of the children out of the line of sight through the door. And it was noticed that the decorative windows that appear next to all the classroom doors in the middle school were lovely and decorative, but increased the light of sight in the building. The following weekend, they were all painted over. I don't particularly like the way it looks aesthetically, but it certainly enhances the safety of the students within the classroom should we be in a lockdown situation, so that's what we did. We did it immediately. So if we become aware of a device that can help a teacher to secure a classroom door, we will invest in such a product.
Great. Happy to talk to you about it. I sent you information about it already.
I got it.
So take a look and see what's there. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate everybody's time. Doing great.
Thanks.
My name is Sherry Jackson. I have a daughter, Melissa Mandel, in 10th grade at the high school. Right now she's at karate, which I'm very happy about, so that's good. She knows about self-defense. Other than that, I said to her, what would you like to see in the classroom in terms of safety? I know all the parents are saying they'd like to see this, they'd like to see that, and all that. What would you like? And she mentioned the day of the Florida shooting that they did have a lockdown drill at the high school.
Same morning.
What's that?
It was the same morning.
The same morning. So I said, well, what did you do? We went in the corner. I said, did they lock the doors? She says, I don't know. But I'm assuming it was.
I'll help you with that one, they sure do.
Okay. Then I said, what would you like I'm going to the meeting tonight. What would you like to see? She would like to see bulletproof windows of your classroom. She said, look, she does take karate. She's aware of all this. She says any gun, if they do get into the school, hopefully they do not, they could shoot out the glass, stick their hand in, and open up the door. So that's what she would like. And then I said to her, there is going to be a cost factor. So I said to her that there is a school bond issue that has been passed. Maybe they could take some of the cosmetic issues or the money that's funded from that and switch it over to possible bulletproof glass in the classroom windows, you know, the doors. I said, I don't know how that operates in terms of that.
Let me help you with that.
Okay.
If the administration and Board of Education determines something is relevant and prudent for ensuring the safety of our students, we'll find a way to finance it.
Right.
However, it won't be through the capital bond that was just passed. We present the plan to the community. They vote yes or no based upon that plan.
Right.
We submit that plan to the state of New York for approval as we do the projects. Correctly, we are not permitted to change the content of that plan after the community has voted.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's right. I'm sure you weren't the only one thinking about those resources financially. So for everyone's benefit, the capital bond will continue to do the projects that were presented to the community. Should we identify other projects that need to be done in response to safety, they will have to be financed through the district's operating budget or another capital fund.
Okay.
Or through aid and grants from the state that we're looking for.
Thank you very much.
Katie Campbell. I have two kids. One is in kindergarten, and the other one's at the YMCA. And I spoke with the YMCA this morning, and your companies might already take care of this process. I'm just curious. There's a company that they work with called GXC Solutions, and it's run by a retired Homeland Security officer. And they do customized drills per building. So they investigate each building, and then, so I'm sure that's what they're doing already. Just curious.
For the customized drills and making modifications to our program, we work with Suffolk County Police Department and also Wisdom Securities, because they are all, as I said, retired law enforcement. So when we make recommendations for modifications and changes, those are our two main resources.
Okay. And then I was going to mention bulletproof glass, because Harley has an entire wall of glass. And also metal detectors hasn't come up yet, and it seems like a lot of these instances, they are students that go to the school. And the one in Florida did bring a gun into the school and load it in the stairwell. So I'm just curious if that's becoming part of the conversation as well.
And that's the other question I anticipated being asked tonight. I think that there are many districts that will have to research the functionality of metal detectors. I think one of the things that complicates the process for a public school is all of our students arrive at the same time. So as we expect students to walk into John Glenn High School at 7:25 in the morning and they arrive at 7:22 to do that, we we would have to make major changes to our arrival procedures and potentially our number of points of entry in order to accommodate metal detectors. And as you know, we require our students to bring metal devices with them every day.
Sure.
So we would have to make some very significant changes to our procedures in order to accommodate that.
I don't want to look like the airport. Those lines.
Yeah, we couldn't deal with a 20-minute queue. So that is something that would require a lot of logistical planning.
Okay, thank you.
I know you.
Hi. My name is Caitlin Fox, and I go to this school, and my parents talked to me about the shooting in Florida, and they said that these people who are causing danger, they don't have a lot of faith in humanity today. So I would just like to suggest that we can create something to help people have more faith in humanity so stuff like this doesn't happen often.
I love that you're having that. And you know what the best place for that to start is children like you having conversations like that with mom and dad. And I'm glad they're speaking to you about these things, and I'm glad they're pointing you in the right direction. And if every parent did that, we wouldn't be having these conversations. Good for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is lockdown time.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Dawn Fox. I go to Boyd and Elementary. I can't even say it. Wow. I go to Boyd. And I'm in 4th grade. And my question is, mostly everybody asks this. We should put, like, if the intruder, like, we're having a lockdown, say, right? So we try to hide, but the intruder comes to the other side and can see us. Like, we need, what if they break the window and then they can easily climb in, and then nobody has any weapons. I'm pretty sure, like, the teachers should have something to defend themselves, so we wouldn't have this problem.
Who's your teacher?
Miss Carvana.
And do you see your principal here? Dr. Scano over there? And
Yep.
do you see me in your building all the time?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think the three of us want to make sure that you are safe and protected all the time in your classroom?
Yep.
Do you believe that we'll do everything we can do to make sure you're safe and protected when you come to school every day?
Yes, sir.
And you got it.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gerard Cook. I have 3 kids, 2 that are actually, one's in elementary school, one's in middle school, and I have a baby. I've been in
Thanks for keeping us in business.
And I'm almost 50. So. Okay, I work for the Federal Aviation Administration. I've been employed for 20 years there. And you all know what happened during 9/11. And we've taken security very seriously since then. And one of the first things they taught us was that the most dangerous person is a determined individual. You understand? And these guys caused a lot of damage with box cutters. Not guns, not bombs, but box cutters. But they were determined individuals, okay? And the problem that I have with the narrative that I see in the news, and the problem that I have with some of the procedures that we have in place is that we are not taking our children's safety as serious as we should be taking it. This is very, very critical. These are our children. These are our most precious resources, okay? And I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, we don't want our schools to look like a jail. We don't look, okay, well, does Madison Square Garden resemble a prison? Does JFK resemble a prison? Does the courthouse resemble a prison? No, they do not. But they have procedures in place, and they have devices in place that make these facilities very secure that we do not have in these schools, okay? The lockdown is great, but we need to prevent the threat head on before it gets to the situation where somebody's inside our school system causing harm to our precious resources, okay? Now listen, this is very serious to me, and I'm not going to Congress because I don't hold Congress responsible for my children. Donald Trump is not responsible for the safety of my children. These people here, you guys are responsible for the safety of our children. And I just want to reiterate that I want everyone here and everyone that's responsible for our children to take our children's safety very, very serious, because it is very serious to me, okay? And the same measures that are taken, that all these other businesses take to make the banks are secure, the Bar Blaze is secure, Madison Square Garden is secure, the courthouses, I can go on and on and on. We need to take the same measures that these businesses are taking and these other state buildings and federal buildings are taking. Where I work at, the Tracon in Westbury, it is barbed wire fence, armed guards, 24 hours a day. Yes, it looks like a prison. And I'm not saying we have to be that extreme, but we need to do more than what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and I know we spoke on the phone, and I can tell you this in response. I appreciate your passion. I think, it's all right. I appreciate your passion, and I think it's shared by everyone in the room who wants to do everything we can to secure the safety of your children and our own children. And know that the leadership of this district feels as passionately about securing your children as we do our own. And that's the reason why we're meeting tonight. It's the reason why we'll continue to have these conversations, some of them more difficult than others. I can tell you if I had made this presentation in 1998, pre-Columbine, I would have had nothing on the list. There are events that occur in our nation that cause people to respond. And I think Parkland is causing people to respond. I thank you.
Oh, thank you.
My name is Sean Murphy. I'm a senior at John Glenn. Typically, I feel pretty safe in the school, but people brought up metal detectors before. And if a student were to bring in like a firearm or something, that would seem like the best defense. And I've taken SATs and ACTs over Long Island where they have these systems to go through first. So I know it doesn't look good for the district, but like people were saying, this could happen anywhere. It doesn't matter what you think, if it's a good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood, it could happen to any school. Another thing I was going to add, people say they don't want the school to look like too much of a prison, because if we have armed guards, but from my experience, the students and the security guards don't really argue that much. They actually have a pretty good relationship, specifically the security guard Slade loves all the kids.
I wish we had 25 Slades. That's perfect.
So I was just wondering, metal detectors, I know there's difficulties with them, but other school districts on the island have them, and I think it would be a good idea.
I'll share this with you. We won't be making any decisions based on appearances. We won't be making any decisions based upon what we feel our status is on Long Island. We'll be making decisions on what we feel is best for our students, staff, and faculty, so I can assure you of that. Will metal detectors be discussed? Yes, I can guarantee there will be conversations about metal detectors.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Hi, Lisa Flood. I'm a teacher in Hartfield, and I just wanted to know if you had looked at all into, I know you mentioned the teachers lock their doors. When we do our lockdowns, recently we had, started last January, we got the automated door slides so that we don't have to worry about finding our key, lockdown starting, and I have to get my kids over to the side. And they've been working really well, so I don't know if that's something you've looked into at all.
Yes, when we talked about devices that would assist teachers in lockdown procedures, the one you're referring to is one of those that we're investigating.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's okay that you work at Harvard Fields. We'll see. Typically, we'll try not to mix, but you're welcome.
Thank you.
How you doing, sir? My name is Tom Viola. I want to thank James. I guess by talking to him a few days ago, he got the meeting to happen, and I want to thank everybody for coming, especially News 12. That was my doing, sorry. But I've been, I guess, blessed and also cursed to get to know Andrew Pollock. He's a father of Meadow Pollock, who was murdered back in Florida last week, shot 9 times. I'm following his lead. He's meeting with a lot of the higher-ups. I told him, bring me along to Washington. I'll be glad to, back him up there. I also, I'm doing a few things. You just mentioned some safety items. I'm in talks with Bilco right now. Bilco makes 2 devices. One's called the Barracuda, which goes over the door closure, and then the slides that you were just talking about. I'm going to try to get them donated to the school district. I've had some experience with Extreme Makeover, building houses in 7 days for people. I've done 8 episodes with the company I was with. So they call that professional begging, and I'm pretty good at it. I just want to mention, first of all, the police officers. They're amazing, okay? I wish we could have them in the schools 24 hours a day. That's not possible. But we also have to remember with Florida, there was a police officer in the rear of the building, and he chose not to go in. If he did, Meadow and 5 other of our schoolmates would have been probably saved. There's no definite, we can't, turn back the clocks, but, metal detectors, it's too late. At that point, the person's in the school. I think what we really need to consider is small, guard booths. When you go into these beautiful communities, you have security checkpoint where the gate goes in, and I think we need that. And we also need, I saw the video, I don't know if the lockdowns with the push of a button can lock all the doors simultaneously. I don't know if that's possible, I didn't hear that. If it is, that's great, but we really need to stop these maniacs yards from the school before they get to the doors, okay? That's the only way we're going to save our children. And there are kids here, so I, tweaked my speech a little bit because I didn't want to, with my kids, I have 2 10-year-old twins at Boyd, and tried to shelter them from the TV, but it's impossible. And they asked me during the break that when they go back to school, are they safe? They use different words, but I'm just going to put, are they safe? And I looked at my kids and, I feel I lied to them. I said, yes, you're safe. But as we all know, we don't know. We don't know if they're safe. We're taking precautions, but something that, Andrew asked me to say tonight was that we need to do this, but we need to do it now, okay? Not 6 months, not 12 months, okay? Because right now, I can guarantee somebody's plotting the next one, okay? It's gonna happen, and we have to be ready. So I heard what you guys said, I heard what James said to me, via the internet. You can look me in the eye right now and tell me tomorrow my kids are 100% safe in these schools?
No, I can't. Nor can I say that they're 100% safe in your living room, or the shopping mall, the movie theater, or
the shopping mall. My house is a different story. Shopping malls.
I would love to say that I think our district or any district could put together a plan that would make our students 100% safe, but I think I'd be foolish to make that statement.
So are we going to work on this? Your plans, okay, I know you can't reveal everything, but is this action that's being taken right away?
I think the reason why we had this form on the first date available following the holiday should demonstrate our eagerness to make sure we have everything in place possible to secure our students.
Okay, just last, I just want, sorry for taking up so much time, but Andrew asked me to say this. He created a public page because he went from 100 friends on Facebook to 5,000 in 3 days. So now he has unlimited and he's going to be just skyrocketing. But please follow his public page because you're going to be able to see what he's doing, like I said, in the higher ups. Okay, he's got governors and Trump listening to him, which is important. I just want to add also, because I don't know if it'll make it onto News 12 tonight, but I did ask Governor Cuomo's office to see if he can be possibly visit here today for this meeting. And she just was a broken tape recorder saying you need to submit it in writing and submit it in writing and submit it in writing. And I said we didn't have time because the meeting was tonight, but he chose, I mean, he could have gotten here if he wanted to. I'm sure you worked with him or spoken to him, but he should have been here, okay?
Andy and I didn't cross paths today. But locally, we do have a meeting coming up with Suffolk County Executive and the Suffolk County Police Department Chief. And I think as far as our local ears to get to the governor's office, we're meeting with the right people.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for everybody who's here.
Hi, Julie Van Lotto, former school board trustee, and a mom of 4 children. My youngest is actually graduating from college this year.
Congratulations.
So yes, finally, no more tuition. So why would I come tonight? Because my children had a wonderful experience here and always felt safe. And I hear a lot of great suggestions tonight. I don't want to say a lot of them are defensive and not preventative, in a way that in one of the common threads through these school shootings is that the shooters were known to the schools. It was a student, you know, someone knew they were in trouble, they were a little bit off, whatever. Sadly, in Elwood, within the past few years, we've had 2 deaths by suicide. We've had deaths by overdoses. And we know we have troubled kids, and anyone can be a troubled kid, okay? Having 4 children who have gone through, you know, schools here and college, they've all been faced with anxiety, depression, and things that challenge them. What I think would be one of the best improvements we can make is to take a program like Natural Helpers or Operational Respect. I want to say that, kind of that format. But let's work on mental health and building strong, or years ago, as PTA council president, I think I hosted an emotional intelligence seminar that was widely attended by many professionals across the districts. Do something like that give our children the tools, individual tools, to help them cope with depression, or to also have friends that would notice, hey, you know, my friend James something's not right. You know, my mother was a school teacher. I know we don't send our children here perfectly, ready to learn everything else. There's a million things that can be going on at home and struggles at home. And I know that's been a factor with some of, you know, our own population with issues they face. So I would really, really like to see us come up with an innovative program to address mental health, and hopefully that's something that can be done within the school day, and even starting in the elementary grades, but certainly at the high school level, where what is the age of many of what these shooters were, to do that. But I also especially want to thank all of our police enforcement and the school community, because I know how hard you work every day. I was a PTA president, well, Columbine happened and 9/11, and seeing our teachers go through some of these lockdown drills for the very first time, and with the seriousness and sobriety and the concern that they take to defend their kids and take care of their kids every day. So thank you for everything you do every day that we don't see, but along with you know, a metal detector or additional security guards, whatever. I think we got to start with teaching people how to take care of their mental health.
I just quickly comment on Ms. Bedlow. I'm in full agreement. And please read, please read the next edition of our newsletter, which will focus on all of our K-12 initiatives of mindfulness, and know that that is our program to address student mental health. It's something we're investing a lot of time and a lot of resources, a lot of training into, because we recognize that prevention and having our students living balanced, healthy lives is the true solution to the problem that we're facing.
Hello, I am Holly Giotti. I have two high school-age sons. I also work in a neighboring district, and I have to say, I want to reiterate...
Is it Harborville?
It's not Harborville.
Okay.
It's a little further. It might be where she came from. But somebody had mentioned the man traps earlier, and during this past break, our building actually installed the man trap. And I have to say, in my specific office, I would have to leave my office to lock it from the outside versus having the ability to lock it from the inside. Today, when I walked into the building, I felt safer, I have to say, and I didn't think that as an adult. Over the past several days, when I've been speaking to my teenage sons about the incidents in Florida, I thought it was very interesting, the teenage brain versus the adult brain. And the teenage brain went back to exactly what our largest threat is, somebody that we know, and really about accountability and having a sense of pride in their school district. I see all of you here. It gives me a little pride to see this. I'm sorry. But I have to say, I'm sorry, I'm as good as the foxes. I'm 4 years older than you guys. But accountability, I would really be very nervous to see. There was a report that came out recently that talked about the safest schools in America. And I read and looked and said, oh, where's Elwood on this list? And then I thought, oh my goodness, this list is comprised of statistics that make me scared that those schools that are not on the list could then become a vulnerability. So they looked at absenteeism, they looked at suspensions, they looked at expulsions, they looked at criminal activities, they looked at every time a police officer came to the grounds. And if you got a bad rating, then you weren't on the safe list. So now, someone else mentioned before, do we create this false identity by not punishing or looking at deviant behavior differently? And will that jeopardize future actions? So I love that everyone's here. I don't think that's going to change. But I just want to say that there is this mentality, even from a student perspective, that they want to be held accountable. They want to see their co-students be held accountable. And just because you're telling the truth and you're being responsible doesn't mean that you shouldn't be still held accountable.
We're in agreement. We don't do things here based on appearances. We do what we feel is best for students. And I don't care where we rank on the list, as long as I feel we are always doing what is in the best interest of our students, faculty, and staff. Thank you. And who are you?
I am Barbara Evinger. I work at Harley Avenue as the greeter. I also am a former alumni, way back when I attended all of your schools. I have one daughter who graduated, one who's in high school, and one who's currently in the middle school. When all of this came about, I spoke with my daughters and asked them, well, when a lockdown happens, where do you hide? And they responded, well, it depends. We only had the rehearsals in a couple of our classrooms, so we're not really sure about the others. That made me a little bit concerned. I don't know if they're not paying attention and it was discussed, or if that's something maybe that can be reiterated. Every class, whether it be music class, gym class, the library, lunchtime, when they are going through the hallways, getting ready to go towards their next class. Teachers, paras walking through the hallway. Do we know what to do? That made me wonder, and want to bring that up to your attention, if that is something that perhaps we can look into a little bit more. Again, if my children, I forgive, if they made the error and did not pay attention when it was discussed in every single class, then I apologize, but I don't believe it has been yet.
I will share with you a conversation that took place just a few hours ago. Prior to tonight's forum, we met with the entire leadership team, all of our principals, all of our directors, to review this presentation to make sure that all salient points were included. And then we started to talk about areas that we felt we needed to focus on more intently moving forward. And one of the first things that was raised by the administrative team was how we need to begin rehearsing our lockdown procedures and things of that nature during off times. We need to make sure our students are very comfortable in how they would respond during passing time in the cafeteria, in the gymnasium, should they be outside when an emergency is called. We recognize that's something we need to spend more time with. So the feedback you received from your children was in line with the feedback I received from the building administration.
Another thing, I know that where I sat or sit in school, I felt uncomfortable with the fact that everyone could see me so clearly. I felt like a fishbowl. I asked administration if I could go out and get a film to put on those windows so that I'm also not blinded by the sunlight that bounces off the cars reflecting into me.
The sun is always shining at Harley Avenue.
Yes, it is, but at least now I have a kind of like wearing sunglasses. But I did notice that people can't see me as well, which is a good thing. And being the fact that I know they want to protect perhaps the front windows area where, I mean, we're all window at Harley. That film makes such a huge difference on a sunny day. People cannot see in. They literally need to come up and peek. Can't say that for a cloudy day, but I do know that when the sun shines, no one sees where I am.
Mrs. Ebinger, you noticed that one of the bullet points on the screen was revisiting the procedures involving our greeters. There's a reason for that. We need to make sure that we are protecting all of our students, faculty, and staff.
Wonderful. And my last and final thing is, if a lockdown procedure is happening and a fire drill goes off, is that going to be addressed with the children, with the staff, and how will they know the truth?
So that's a reference to what occurred in Florida. For those of you that are not informed, the intelligence that came out from law enforcement was that the shooter pulled a fire alarm to get the students out of the classrooms to expose them to gunfire. One of the things that we have and will continue to drill with our students is that if we are in a lockdown, they are to ignore all other alarms, signals, and notifications until a uniformed police officer releases them from their classroom.
Correct. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Lisa Burke. I have a 4-year-old in Harley. The question kind of touches upon something that you raised earlier, and that is that teachers and often students are the ones that are on the front lines and noticing when certain other students are problematic. What I'm a little bit unclear of is at what point are you handling that internally, and at what point are you referring that for further criminal investigation? In terms, I think my concern is, and I say this because I work in law enforcement and specifically I'm a prosecutor, and oftentimes, even when I am investigating a case, I will learn from other sources, oh, this person has always been a problem, or I'll dig in, I'll get their school records, and I'll learn that there's been a history of bad behavior. So I guess I want to know what is the process here to deal with that once you have identified somebody who is a risk to other students.
When the acts perpetrated by a student reach a criminal nature, we notify law enforcement or inform parents of their rights to do so. We don't hide information from police officers. Often reports need to be made by parents if their children are the victims of a crime.
Yes.
And we advise them of their right to do that. Some do it, some don't. Most of the discipline that we handle within our school facilities does not rise to the level of criminality. However, the other part of your question is when behaviors become of a concerning nature, we do refer them to the mental health staff within the building for an assessment. And if we deem that child to be at risk of being a danger to themselves or others, that is a referral that is made.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
My name is Debbie Slitsky. Dr. Bossert, I just wanted to say thank you to you and all the professionals that are here tonight, spending so much time to address this serious issue. Working in a neighboring district, one of the things that we're talking about is the security that's during non-school hours. And I'm not posing this as a question, I'm more addressing it as a hope that one of the things that is being addressed or looked at or discussed is the after-school hour events in which students, youngsters are in the buildings, Cub Scouts, musicals, athletic teams. So it's not to say what have you done, what are you doing, but more so hopefully that it's part of the discussion if the students know what to do during those times where the security is not as expensive.
The principals are nodding because that was the second item learned from our meeting earlier this evening. We feel we need to do a bit more in preparing our after-school staff to have all the same knowledge and memorization procedures we have in place that we have during the school day, because you're correct. We have a number of students and staff present after school hours, and we want to make sure that they're safe and as cared for as during the instructional day. Thank you. I didn't ask the neighboring district.
My name is Danielle Paxor. I have a son in kindergarten and also a psychologist. I have a lot of thoughts about the matter, and I'm going to organize my thoughts and put it in an email to you, but also echo a lot of the sentiments that have been expressed here today. I'm really pleased that the district has adopted a PBIS framework and is speaking so much about promoting mental health concerns for students and also like for staff as well and for families, because I think it is a major issue. So often when we have students who are engaging in these inappropriate behaviors and are actively shooting in other schools, these are students who are socially isolated, socially withdrawn, and socially rejected. And I think part of the conversation really has to be about what we as parents are also doing, not just putting all the responsibility on the school district and on law enforcement. Standing up here, like literally my body shaking.
I'm very
You see me like, okay. But I really think it is so important for us as parents to be positive, appropriate role models for our children, really be mindful of the way that we talk to and about others in front of the children, our own presence on social media, like sometimes I'm friends with other families, and I can see things that they write, and like, ooh, like I'd be really upset if I heard another child saying something like that. Kids really watch what we do, the way that we respond to frustration and our tolerance for other people and road rage and all of that. And I do think that that has to be part of the conversation. I think it's really important that we find ways to connect with the children, especially the children who are struggling and their families. When all of this was happening at Parkland, I'm one of the past moms, and I was at the school's Valentine's Day celebration, and I worked the room, and I went around and I said hello to every single child and tried to remember their name and make them feel special, not just my son, who was lucky enough to have me there as a past parent, but make sure that all the kids feel important and special. And I think that's really important that we're mindful of as parents in the community. And just to keep in mind that the most challenging students are often facing the greatest challenges themselves. And I think that has to be part of the conversation. And I'm going to reach out to other parents in the PTA because I really think that we have a responsibility to connect with all the kids, particularly those who are struggling, as well as their families, because it becomes really isolating and challenging for them, and it just compounds over the years as the kids get older. So, a comment, not a question.
Thank you for your thoughts. It absolutely does take a village. I have learned that Elwood is a caring village where whenever challenges arise, the community responds in a very positive way. For those that are not completely familiar with educational acronyms, our PBIS system is Positive Behavioral Intervention Strategies. And we implement them on a K-12 basis on an age-appropriate way that is basically demonstrating and rewarding good behavior. For those of you that have children at Harley and Boyd and they come home with those nice stickers, it means they were caught doing something good. We want to reinforce good behavior. And it doesn't have to be academic excellence. It can be, I picked up my neighbor's pencil when it fell off the desk. things of that nature. In this building and the high school, you hear a lot, in all of our buildings, you hear a lot about the 3 R's: respect, responsibility, and relationships, and those are conversations that take place in the hallways and classrooms every day. And it's about reinforcing positive behavior, modeling positive behavior, and looking to create an environment of acceptance and community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hina Sheikh, and I have 2 children, one in Harley and one in Boyd. I actually have a question in regards to the system that we're thinking of we have installed into the school.
Yes.
Is a representative for that particular company here today?
There are 3 representatives.
Oh, awesome, excellent. So my question, now, obviously I'm a mom. And
yeah, I told you it would be great if you were here.
I bet you're glad I'm here, because I'm the only one who came up with a question. You know, if I'm correct, we also spoke about, or what Dr. Bossert, how you introduce the system is that the teachers would have access through their iPhones or their smartphones. I'm not here representing Apple, yeah. But is that how it would work? And then, so if, in case there was an emergency, they would dial 911, and that's how the authorities would get their signal that the school's at risk?
Sure, that is one of the methods that it will be available, as in many different initiating devices to initiate a lockdown.
What other devices would there be?
As Dr. Bossert mentioned, there's the blue wall-mounted panic buttons. So you never know where you're going to be when there's an emergency situation. So we create different buttons. So if you have a virtual button on your keyboard for an administrator can activate a lockdown, you have those wall-mounted blue panic buttons. You have the cell phone app, and then you also have through your phone system, through a teacher to pick up a phone and press a hotkey and initiate the lockdown.
Now, in regards to the blue buttons, like the wall buttons, where would they be located? Just in the classrooms, or?
Those are strategically placed throughout the district and designated areas.
Okay, my question, because I'm just thinking as a parent as well as a teacher, because not just our children, but our teachers who are parents, who have children, are high risk as well. Again, we all watch social media, and I'm holding my hand up to that. I saw a video of a school who initiated a security system where the teachers had key fobs, so no matter where they were, it was just basically something on a chain and a little fob. And at the time, again, it's all about seconds. At a time like this, it's not even about minutes, it's seconds. And someone walking in with an automatic rifle, was it 30 bullets to within, it's atrocious. So I am questioning the system, and I know you guys are professionals, but my concerns as a parent, I'm sure other parents also have these concerns, is would something like that would be introduced to teachers where, just like you guys are carrying ID badges, teachers, especially when, I see all the time when I'm at Boyd, going in to drop off lunch for my son, teachers are walking children through the corridors, and someone comes in with an automatic rifle. You've got 20 children, yourself, you're not going to be looking for a panic button. You should have that on you. That's a huge concern. Today, cars, I have a truck, I have a one-button response. My home alarm system has a one-button response. I have a little key fob right by my bedside in case there is an intruder, and I have one-button response. So if something as basic as that, a car and a home, not saying my home's basic, but we're talking about children here and teachers. We should have a one-button response, a key fob, something that they carry with them throughout the day.
Sure.
The good news is,
you have it?
We don't have key fobs. However, we do have one key initiated lockdown. Every teacher with a desktop computer in every classroom can call lockdown from their room with one keystroke. It's not one on their person, it's on their desktop.
Right.
But every teacher in every room can call for a one-button lockdown of the facility. You'll see when you walk through the hallways that those blue emergency switches are strategically placed around the building. You'll notice several of them now that we told you they were there. But every teacher in every classroom has the capability of calling a lockdown in their room on their desktop.
No, again, again, and like I said, I'm not the expert, but the concern is what if the teacher's not in the classroom? What if the teacher's outside? You know, a lot of the teachers that do take the children outside because they're doing something like a science class or something, and there's an intruder on property. You're not going to get to your desk. You're not going to get to a blue button on the wall. There has to be something physically on them. It's a huge concern. And again, like I said, I'm not the expert, but I've seen it, and I think it's a wonderful idea.
Okay, Rich, we'll take those tomorrow morning. Just to add that to our order.
Well, what if the power goes out? What is backup in there?
That's a great question. Fortunately, our cells don't shut off during a power outage, so we would be able to continue those to initiate a lockdown or dial 911.
Well, if your Wi-Fi went out.
My technology director is just feeding me information. Most of us do have the motive of that.
You know, I was going to go up and ask that question, but it's linked to what she was saying.
It's a fair question, but our mobile devices stay operational during the blackout. I don't rely at all on Wi-Fi during the day.
Yeah, my question would be.
Guys, I'll answer that question.
His company, yeah.
These systems are on UPS systems, UPS battery backup systems, and which will be for a period of time that these systems are on battery backup. Okay?
So that's a battery backup. Is the school on generator backup for electricity?
Not in the facility's entirety, no.
So if that answers your question as far as redundancy, if the power did go out, we do have redundancy built into the system that we will be on battery backup for a period of
So
time.
if the power goes out, there's battery backup on the pull switches, but not on the desktops or the laptops that have the one keystroke button.
That's all, it's basically, that's all tied into the technology. That all feeds back into our closets. It's all on a network. That's on battery backup.
But to relate to her, you can't, everything's locked. So if something happened right here, right now, we don't have the Wi-Fi password. It says not connected on my phone. You don't have to be.
Go to your data.
Data will do it?
Mobile data will work. It's not
Not even AT&T, this area has horrible reception.
Not a commercial from Verizon. My phone's been buzzing away because people saw us on News 12 and it's just buzzing.
So you're going to look into it?
I think it's something.
So you're going to consider it?
Well, representatives of the company that are working with our district and probably a large percentage of school districts on Long Island just heard your question.
All right, great. All right, wonderful. Secondly, I'd like to, myself, I've been working with Dr. Toscano on the cultural committee, and we've been addressing children, including children, to parents here. I'd just like to bring it out to you that it's a great committee that she set up, a great cause, and I would call out to everyone, please come attend the Board of Education meetings, reach out to Dr. Scano, reach out to your principals, and and we need committees like this. I mean, this is just a pilot scheme in Boyd right now, and I know Harley has started introducing, bringing cultural awareness and working as a community, and again, teaching our children about differences. But as parents, it's our duty too as well. Please reach out to your children, reach out to your schools, and be part of this. Thank you so much.
My name is Carol, and I'm one of recent graduate from Young Man, and I have 2 children in the district already. My question is, I mean, you don't know how to answer this. If a child, be it middle school, high school, comes up with something that they feel is funny, like, oh, I'm gonna shit up the school, and the kids go crazy, and they let everybody know, and they get sent to the mental health expert, at what point, if at all, or I believe should always, police get involved?
You know how you can't say bomb on an airplane? Can't say gun in the school.
But no, just like some kid who maybe he's a little socially awkward and he says things that are just inappropriate all the time, and he comes up with one of those again. My concern is that child, every time he has to go through the process, and at some point it's he always says things like that. So the police always get notified, even if it's done with a kid who has said so many ridiculous things over the years. But now it's at the point where we can't just assume that he's being him and not that he's snapped.
As we've been talking about, I'm very comfortable in telling you our faculty and staff know the children well. And we know when a threat is a threat, and we notify law enforcement of such. And if we have a student with a disability or a student who demonstrates that pattern of behavior that we have assessed to not be a threat, we will not notify law enforcement. We don't want to take police officers off the street to deal with a misbehaving child.
I understand, but my final note is going to be, it would be such an absolute shame if that one child said, oh, it's going to be fun to shoot at the school today. And
If any child says that.
No, but when you're saying that, like the kids who saying you don't get law enforcement involved.
No,
so is it a one and done if you say I'm going to shoot at the school?
If the child says they're going to shoot up the school, regardless of who they are going to have a long time out of the school.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because sometimes a lot of kids get.
There's a difference between making inappropriate comments and a difference between making a threat against the school district. Any threat made against the school district is taken very seriously, and you can speak to some of your neighbors about when they have to meet with me on this issue. There is no tolerance for threats against the school district.
Hi, my name is Gennaro Palacios. I have 2 young children who next year will be coming through the school district.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I am a retired federal law enforcement officer. I retired as a deputy director at the Department of Homeland Security, where my responsibility was protecting federal buildings. 3,000 out of the 11,000 in the country came underneath my purview. So I had a lot of experience in this arena.
I would have given you a seat at the front of the room.
You know what? That's what I'm here to ask. So earlier, a parent came up here and referenced my company with what work that we're doing with the YMCA. That was not planned. I didn't pay her, although I'm going to maybe do that now. My question is, I'm very big on community. I have family who's passed through here. I have family who's going to come through here. What is the process, or is there a process to accept volunteers to be on a security board for the school without, I've had a hard time approaching superintendents.
Here's the process.
Before I came here.
Thank you.
And the only reason I got up here is because she referenced my company. And I said, you know what, I don't want to come off as one of those security vultures. So I'm here to help the community, this school, no charge. I just want to be a part of the school.
And we will take it. With your preferred contact information, we will definitely be in touch. And yes, we want community participation in our safety committees and different, forms of community committees that we have. And your expertise will be a very welcome addition. So we appreciate your volunteerism.
Yes. Hi, my name is Gail Thompson. I have a daughter in the 8th grade. My question is pretty simple and quick. When there is a lockdown, are the students able to get out of the classroom if there's an opportunity to escape in that situation?
That's that common sense that we refer to.
Well, when it locks down, does it open from the inside?
Yes. When we are drilling, we absolutely want the students to follow the protocol that we go through. We also want the teachers to become comfortable making decisions as responsible adults, that if the best course of action is to flee the classroom, that they take that action. Students are not trapped in the classrooms. They have the ability to get out from inside.
Okay. And the other thing is, I understand parents' concerns of teachers not having guns. However, if in fact our security guards are retired police officers or retired military, what would be the harm in them having a weapon when the only way to stop a person with a gun is really with a gun? If somebody comes in with a machine gun, how do you stop them? You're going to lock yourself in a room and wait for somebody else to come, or? And then I don't.
As I said earlier, I am certain that conversation will continue with the Board of Education, who are all present here tonight listening to the input from the community.
Okay. Thank you.
The time now is 8:25. I appreciate your 2 hours of attention, of your input, of your comments, of your insight, and the demonstrative care you show for your children in this school district. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. This is the first conversation. It will not be the last conversation, and we appreciate your participation. Thank you so much.